Welcome. I'm so glad to be back. You're going to have a bunch of new episodes with me now. I'm very excited. I had to take some time off. We opened a bunch of new locations around the country. I've been doing a lot of traveling, doing clinics in Brazil and different parts of Europe and obviously the United States. So now I'm back for a little while. I'm really excited about it. We're going to have a lot of different formats for this show in the future. I'm going to be bringing on guests. We're going to be talking about everything from nutrition to mental health to world events that would affect you and your family, because this is, you know, our schools are a family operation, and this is a family show. Some of the things that might be a little bit graphic, I'll warn you ahead of time if children are watching this. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. I just got back from China. It's been my 18th year of going to the famous Shaolin Temple in Denfang, China. People always ask me how long the trip is. It's about a 13, 14-hour flight to Beijing, and then we take another plane to another city called Zhengzhou, and then we take a car from there or a bus from there. Every other year, I take students to Shaolin. It was really cool because the past couple of times that I went, parents come with their kids, so the parents will do sightseeing along with us, but then when they're training, when the students are training, they will do sightseeing around the temple because it's a beautiful location and there's all kinds of things to see and be entertained by. But the past couple of years, it was really cool. I never know why I didn't think of this before, but I invited parents to actually train with the monks that had never studied martial arts before, and they did, and they loved it. They really had a great time, and the monks have been training us as Americans for like 18 years now, and they're very patient with us, and they work really, really well with our students. So I'm really excited about that. I had the first time that I went to China without any students, which was great. I love taking students, don't get me wrong, but I was able to train and not have to worry about anybody else and just focus on the training. Like I said, this is my 18th year going to Shaolin. A little bit of history about Shaolin. I know I've told you about it before, and I won't get too lengthy, but it's what I grew up on. I don't know how many young people are watching this show, but mostly I would think close to my generation. But we grew up on the Kung Fu series, you know, the David Carradine Kung Fu series, and that Shaolin Temple, that place where Kwai Chang Caine trained. Grasshopper, I mean, that was the place I went to in 1987, which was the first time that I went, and it was just a great opportunity. I was a guest of the government through the White House, because I was working with the White House at that time. So I got to train there the first time that I went, and this time around is incredible. We were the first non-Asians that they ever allowed at that temple to train, like actually in the temple. I mean, people have gone to Shaolin from all over the world for many years now, but they kind of trained outside the temple. Now we get to train. We were the first ones to be able to train inside the Shaolin Temple, which is a whole new experience in itself. And we have students that go up for different ranks, and they kind of wait till we're going in July. We're going to go in 2016. We'll be going July 20th. So if anybody's interested, it's easy to get a hold of me. The phone number is on the screen, and you can always contact me directly, which is Steve DeMasco at AOL.com, and I have a Facebook page too. Shaolin is over 1,500 years old, and it's got a history that spans the world. I mean, Japanese martial arts, Korean martial arts, many martial arts systems were based from the Shaolin Temple, from the martial arts that was taught in the temples. The temples had been burnt down 3 different times in its 1,500-year history. Emperors had burned the temple down because they were paranoid that these warrior monks that were Buddhists would somehow maybe turn against them and attack them. So out of paranoia, different emperors had burned this temple down 3 different times. But as history tells, you know, the temple has been restored that many times, and it's just a phenomenal thing to see when you go. The training is great. When we were at the temple, we eat at this Buddhist restaurant, which is kind of cool because it's all tofu, and it's the only place that I know of where you can get tofu that tastes like chicken and beef. It's not, obviously, because they don't eat that. but it's great food. I love eating there. So that was my little excursion this year to China to train with the Shaolin monks. Some of the guests again we're going to have on this show is dealing with nutrition. I get a lot of questions asked to me about nutrition and diet, and when I had my own studio, I have a lot of studios now, but when I was a chief instructor, we all started out as chief instructors. I used to have this sumo wrestler statue, about 3 feet tall, of a sumo wrestler in my studio, and people would ask me, why do you have a sumo wrestler? We don't teach sumo wrestling, and we don't teach a Japanese style. And I would say, well, a lot of people ask me about diet, and the fact was that I would tell them how sumo wrestlers train. They literally train. I've seen rare footage, and it's very difficult to find footage. So I don't remember where I got it, but I got it from Japan, and it showed sumo wrestlers training in a clay pit. They train 7 days a week. Sumo wrestling they're treated almost like they are treated like royalty. The sumo wrestlers in Japan, it's part of their entire culture, and it's revered. And a real sumo wrestler has an apprentice sumo wrestler that washes his feet, fixes his hair, and they're treated like royalty. So when they'd ask me about the sumo wrestler in my studio, I would say, here's a guy that trains 7 days a week, 6 to 7 hours a day. The training is just grueling. And these guys, as big as they are, can take their foot and stick it right over their head. So they're in phenomenal physical shape, but they weigh a ton. So the metaphor here is that you can exercise 5, 6, 7 hours a day, and you could do it 7 days a week. But if you don't monitor what you eat, because they eat to put on weight, they need that weight to win their matches. So exercising that much, that many hours a day, that many days a week, and still weighing hundreds of pounds, clearly demonstrates that you can do all of that, but if you don't eat correctly, you'll still put on weight. So believe it or not, that demonstration of having that sumo wrestler in my studio and giving explanations for that changed a lot of people's diets. So that, diet is very important as a martial artist. Today, we're going to talk about self-defense as we do in every show, and I'm really excited to bring this to you. I have never done a Facebook page before. I had Facebook, and I've always shied away from it. First of all, I'm a technology dinosaur, and I've never really liked using Facebook to promote what I do or what we do and how we do it, because I've worked. I celebrated this year. I celebrated 45 years in the martial arts. As a student and as an instructor, 35 years almost 40 years as an instructor, but 45 years studying in the martial arts. And the reason I didn't like to put stuff on YouTube and put stuff on television was because I took private lessons for 35 years, over 35 years. And wherever my studio was, it was a 2.5 to 3 hour, sometimes 4 hour drive to get there, depending on traffic. So it would be a 7 to 8 hour day for me for a 1 hour to a 1 hour and a half private lesson. And I can assure you, which is one of the reasons how I got invited to China, because I studied with famous Chinese grandmasters that I didn't miss. You could count on one hand the number of classes I would miss in the course of a year. It was just too. Well, forget the expense, but it was just too precious a time. You go to these lessons and you travel 3 hours to get there, and you're taught, the Chinese were not at that time really familiar or experienced in really teaching Americans and how we process. And they used to teach in the Chinese, so they would do a technique, ba 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 ba, part of a form, and walk away and say, work on that. Well, that really didn't work for me. So if I missed something, I'd have to wait and forgot something when I got back to my studio, I'd have to wait another week to get that move, because once you forget a transition in a form, it's very hard to practice that form. So that's why I didn't put stuff on, because this is my treasure. This is something, no matter in life what gets taken away from me, it's or us. This is something that I have. All we really own in our life is who we are and what we've possessed for knowledge. And that took a long time and many years to get this material. But over a course of several years and listening to what the Shaolin philosophy is, the abbot and the monks are always saying, Shaolin, and I've heard the abbot say this many times, Shaolin is for everyone. For everyone. So I find, and I am the ambassador to the United States. I have been for several years. I'm the only one in the U.S. that is a Shaolin cultural ambassador. And 2 years ago, the abbot announced, without me even knowing he was going to do that, that I was now the international ambassador for the world to spread Shaolin. And so I have an obligation to talk a little bit about history, and also especially try to help people understand martial arts and what Shaolin is all about. So if Shaolin, in fact, is for everybody, then I have an obligation to then spread that. The problem with that is I'm going to show stuff on every show. I'm going to show techniques that, self-defense techniques based on different attacks. But again, there are no 30-day wonders. I can show you some stuff, and I hesitate again to do this kind of thing because, people say, oh, well, I just learned this technique from Master DeMasco on television, and I can do it. Well, it's not for that, because whatever I do on TV or whatever I do on this show, you're not going to be able to do unless you're an experienced martial arts, you have incredible timing, okay, and you train 3 or 4 days a week in the martial arts studio, And I don't promote all martial arts studios. I promote martial arts. But the stuff that I'm going to show you is the stuff that we teach in my studios and the stuff that I've learned over the years. So what it really is, it's a demonstration of what you can learn if you decide to train. That's what this is. Because, I'm doing this stuff, and again, I've been doing this for 45 years, and it takes time. It really, really takes time, because timing is important. And, people ask me all the time, too. They say to me, well, I don't really feel I need to learn martial arts. I don't think I really will ever have to use something like that. I carry weapons, and I carry this and carry that. Well, let me give you the insight on that. A couple of years ago, I got really sick. It was the only 2 years I missed in China, and I came down with a really, really life-threatening infection. We don't know what country I got it in, but I'm sure it was one of them. And I lost 50 pounds, and I lost all muscle tone. I was literally on my back for several months, and in a coma for 2 of those months. So, and I had perfect health. So, coming back from that, and you do have muscle memory, taught me a lot about what I've been talking about and preaching all these years. It took me literally 3 years, almost 3 years, to get back physically to where I was prior to getting sick. And I'm talking about strength, and I'm talking about timing. If you should ever have to use self-defense, if you should ever have to get your family out of a house really quick, your ability, okay, to focus and function under traumatic stress, your ability to move quickly, your timing, your speed, getting off the mark, okay, even if you're an athlete, that helps. That's what we do in our schools. So, and in terms of what happens when you really study and for a period of time, and you do it consistently at least 3 times a week, it does tremendous things, not only for you mentally, but for your body and for timing. Today, I'm going to demonstrate an attack on somebody trying to take you down, somebody trying to tackle you. I hear a lot about this MMA stuff, and I'd really like to clear that up. I have a tremendous amount of respect for those athletes, although I don't advocate cage fighting. I grew up in the projects as a kid, and I felt we were in a cage. And everything was that type of fighting, And if you really watch these things, most of those fights wind up in just a brawl where the guy's on top of you or the woman, and they're just pounding on your head. I'm really, I come from a very violent place, and I got into martial arts, and I gravitated towards philosophy of it because I was trying to get away from. I wanted to get away from the violence. I've worked with gang members and wannabe gang members for almost 30 years now, explaining to them what real power really is. And You know, anybody can pull a trigger and anybody can punch you in the face. It doesn't take any special talent to do that. You know, so you know the MMA stuff is, they're great athletes and they're in great condition, but it's not the way to go. The last thing I want to do is I train law enforcement people, and you know, on a federal level and state level, and the last thing they want to do is be rolling around on the ground with somebody. So, but I do, the Shaolin 5-fist system, okay, is a system that was designed and developed by the Shaolin monks. And it was designed for fighting, literally fighting, and self-defense, because they do a lot of forms, they do a lot of weapons. It gets their bodies in incredible shape. They're phenomenal. They do phenomenal things with their body. I've been doing it for 45 years, and I can't come close to what they do. But you know, the defense system that they designed was called the Shaolin 5-fist system. A lot of people think it's Kempo. It's very close to this Kempo style, but we teach a little bit different. Kempo is done at a little bit of a distance, okay, where the 5-fist system is a system that's designed. I'm going to work with Jeff here a little bit and kind of explain that a little bit better.